Hello, everyone. Welcome again to another Teacher Joseph podcast. This week in our weekly lesson, we're looking at the TV license and what happens if you try to evade buying one. You can even go to prison or face a stiff penalty in court if you get into trouble if they catch you. Now, related to that, of course, as I mentioned a few days ago, currently we have overcrowding in many of our prisons, and as a result, many prisoners are being released. And today, there's a picture here of a prisoner coming out of a prison, and he's waving, looking very happy. And it says here, beaming, that just means smiling, beaming prisoners were greeted with hugs and kisses as they stepped out of the metal gates of a Manchester prison and into the arms of waiting friends and family after being freed under the government's early release scheme. Now, this is a little bit controversial. Many prisoners are being released early, and there's a real divided opinion. Some people like this idea, and other people think that prisons are there to punish people, and they shouldn't be allowed to release people early. There's a very divided opinion. Some people think that the whole purpose of prisons is to make sure people are harshly treated. But we know, of course, that prisons these days, well, they're much softer than they were 100 years ago. I know that some prisons have television for their guests, and they also have little cats wandering around, so prisoners can have pets as well. I'm not saying it's always like that, but certainly some prisons do offer that service. I'm very much in favour of reform, rehabilitation, and early release, and it looks like prisons in general in the future are perhaps going to be changing. And who knows, maybe they will eventually become something of the past. So that's the story that we're going to read through today. And actually, I had a letter from a friend of mine who's currently in prison. And he wrote to me saying, "Oh, I'm getting out in a few weeks. It'll be lovely to catch up with you, to see how you're doing. Haven't seen you since you got married. It would be great if we can meet up. I'll give you a call when I'm out and I can come and stay for a few days." And I'm thinking, okay, how do I tell my family that? Will I simply break the news over breakfast? "Oh, hi, how are you this morning? By the way, my prisoner friend is being released and wants to come and stay." That's not going to be a good conversation. Or maybe I should try it another way. Do you remember that friend I told you about from school? Yeah, the one, well, life didn't go too well and he went to prison and everything, and he's doing much better these days. Pause. Wait. Yeah. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to approach this yet. And to be honest with you, I'm not sure how I feel about someone coming out of prison and coming up to see me. Should I hide the silver? Yeah, I don't know. But I like to think that I'll be open-minded enough once I get used to the idea after I, hide my computer equipment and my laptop and everything. But I'm sure the people who are being released are very grateful and they have been reformed. Although there was a news report last night which says that people who go to prison are an extremely high risk group because most of them do actually reoffend. And the government are using this as an argument to say, look, we should find some other way of dealing with people rather than putting them in prison. Yeah. Anyway, I'm really glad that my friend is being released. Not sure how I feel right now of him visiting the week after he's released, but maybe once he gets used to freedom, he'll have plenty of other things to do. So very interesting. So let's read through this story. Beaming prisoners were greeted with hugs and kisses as they stepped out of the metal gates of a Manchester prison and into the arms of waiting friends and family after being freed under the government's early release scheme. By lunchtime yesterday, 14 prisoners had been released from the prison, with several confirming they had been let go early. Two said they had been serving time for drugs offences. Several cars waited for hours parked outside, and the smell of cannabis was surrounding the prison. By the way, this news story is coming from The Guardian. It seems that the smell of cannabis was actually coming from one of the cars who were picking up one of the prisoners. It says here, as one man came out, a group of 9 women and children rushed to meet him, hugging him just outside the steel doors. One former inmate, beaming, it just means smiling, as he stepped out of the gates and was met by waiting friends, said he had been released from his sentence 7 months early. Another man said he had also been freed early for serving 5 years, but he didn't say what the issue was. Juggling 4 bags. Juggling is when you're, well, of course, juggling literally means when you take something in your hand and you throw it and catch it in the other hand. The act that they do at the circus, there's always someone, like a street entertainer, who has 5 balls and he manages to throw them all in the air and catch them at the same time. But we also use this word when you're struggling to carry something. If you're carrying 4 bags and you're dropping them and picking them up, it's also referred to as juggling. So this particular criminal, he was juggling 4 black bags filled with possessions, and he shouted, "It's corrupt. They beat people up. It's corrupt and abusive. There's no mental health." And then he was driven away by a waiting friend. So he's presumably referring to life inside the prison. Yeah, I'd imagine it's quite rough. From what I know of them, despite having TVs and pets, they really are rough places, and nobody seems able to change the system. So apparently, in total, across the country, 1,100 inmates were due to be released yesterday, and that's only in England, and I think Wales as well. Scottish figures are dealt with separately. One prisoner was celebrating with his friends, mother and sister, who picked him up in a convoy of black Mercedes cars, and he had spent several years for grievous bodily harm of someone who owed money to his friend, and he was getting out 7 weeks early. He said he regretted his crime and planned to spend more time with friends and his 2 children. The releases came as our Prime Minister said he shares the public's anger at scenes of criminals who are celebrating their early release. The Prime Minister released a statement saying, "The Prime Minister shares the public's anger at these scenes and thinks it is shocking that any government should ever inherit the crisis that this government has when it came to prisons. Yeah, so we have a new government, and they're basically saying, oh, wow, it's not our problem, it's the problem of the last government. We have to let these people out because there's no room. The last government didn't deal with this. Um, yeah, so a lot of very unhappy people. But I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, to sum up, uh, I think it is good that these people will be reunited with their families, but coming out of prison, stepping into a very expensive car, as this newspaper says, um, yeah, it kind of gives the wrong idea, but it does seem to me that this newspaper article is a little bit biased. Um, we don't know exactly the kind of people these are. We don't know how they've been treated inside. So yeah, we just don't know. But that's the news story for today about prisoners who are coming out, celebrating their freedom, being released from prison, and many more are coming. Uh, and we don't know exactly what's going to happen in the future with our prisons. And many people, of course, are very afraid that these prisons are getting out because they may want to revisit all the enemies, and perhaps they may want to create problems for other people. But they won't all be like that, I'm sure. Many of these people have simply been released for crimes which were very minor. So, yeah, very, very interesting, and hopefully they can get on with their lives without the media looking at them all the time. Yeah. Um, I don't think my criminal friend, if I can call him this, will want to do a podcast with me, but I'll try and get some information from him. Um, this is another thing. Everyone, including myself and the newspapers, are still referring to these people as criminals, but they're not. They've been released. So they're ex-criminals now. And very interesting. So I'm curious to know what's going to happen to them, but no doubt the media will continue to report on that. Well, that's it from me for today. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let's talk again soon. See you. Bye.